They called her a monster, and the word echoed through stone halls and broken streets where fear lived longer than hope. She learned early that names could hurt more than blades, and that silence was safer than speaking. Her form was tall and wrong by their standard, skin marked by strange patterns, eyes glowing faintly in shadow. Children cried when they saw her, and elders whispered prayers as if she were a curse walking. She did not remember when the fear began, only that it had always been there like cold rain on bare skin. Villages burned, her outcast chaser hunters tracked her steps across mud and ash. Each time she ran, she cared less of herself until only survival remained. She hid in ruins beyond the last road where even soldiers feared to patrol. At night she watched the stars and wondered if somewhere there was a place without screams. Her strength was unnatural. They said her endurance impossible, her presence an omen of disaster. Yet she never attacked first and never took more than she needed to live another day. The day she collapsed by the old bridge, she expected death to finally claim her. Wounds covered her body, deep cuts and burned from iron and fire. Her breath was shallow and her vision faded into gray. Footsteps approached slow and careful, not the rush of hunters or the roar of mobs. She forced her eyes open, ready for pain or chains. Instead, she saw a human kneeling beside her, face calm, hands steady. He did not flinch at her appearance nor reach for a weapon. He spoke softly words she did not understand at first because kindness sounded foreign. He cleaned her wound with water from a flask and bound them with cloth torn from his own pack. She tried to warn him with a weak growl, expecting fear to finally appear. But he only smiled, tired and sincere, as if she were no different from any injured soul. He said she was worth saving, and the words struck harder than any blow. No one had ever spoken them about her. She wept without knowing why, Tay's carving paths through dirt and blood. The human stayed until dawn, keeping watch as she slept between pain and warmth. When soldiers arrived, he stood before her and refused to move. They shouted orders, called her a beast, demanded he step aside. He said she had suffered enough and that killing her would not make them brave. His voice did not shake even when swords were drawn. Something shifted then, not only in her but in the watching crowd. Some lowered their weapons, others hesitated, uncertain. The soldiers left angry but unwilling to spill human blood over fear. The human helped her stand and offered her a path beyond the ruins. They traveled together through valleys and forests where danger still lurked. He taught her words, and she taught him how to listen to silence. At night they shared fire and stories as of lost heirs of exile. Slowly she learned that monster was only a word used to excuse cruelty. She saved him once when beast attacked, and he laughed, saying he never doubted her. Villages still stayed, but fewer shouted stones, fewer raised torches. Some saw the human walking beside her and questioned their fear. Children asked questions instead of screaming, elders watched instead of cursing. She helped rebuild a bridge, carried supplies, healed the wounded with herbs she knew. The world did not change in a single day, but cracks formed in old hatred. When asked what she was, a human answered, she is someone worth saving. Over time, others repeated it quietly, then aloud. She stood taller not because she was feared, but because she was seen. And those scars remained. She no longer hid from the light. They had called her a monster for so long that she believed it. But one human saw her soul, and in doing so changed her fate. Her story spread not as a warning, but as a reminder that even in a world shaped by fear, compassion could still choose to stand. And sometimes that choice was enough to turn a monster into a miracle. Years passed, and the road beneath her feet no longer felt like an escape, but a journey with purpose. She and the human reached lands where her kind had never been seen, and rumors arrived before they did. Some spoke of a shadow guardian, others of a cursed protector walking beside a man without fear. When they entered town, she waited at the edge, ready to leave if hatred returned. Yet more often doors opened cautiously, and food was offered with shaking hands. The human always spoke first, saying she would do no harm unless harm was given. Trust grew slowly like grass through cracked stone. She learned to smile without baring teeth and to speak without expecting rejection. People began asking for help when danger came from beast storms or war bands. She fought not with rage but with restraint, proving again and again that strength could serve mercy. Each battle left marks, yet none weighed as heavily as the loneliness she once carried. Children followed her, asking about the patterns on her skin, and she told them stories instead of hiding. At night she still dreamed of fire and screams, but the human was there, grounding her in the present. He grew older, lines forming on his face, while she changed more slowly. She feared losing him more than death itself. One winter sickness took him, and she stayed by his side for days, refusing to move. Villagers gathered, bringing remedies, prayers, and warmth for both of them. He survived, and she understood then that she was no longer alone in guarding him. Years later, when he could no longer walk far, she carried him on her back across familiar roads. People bowed not in fear but in gratitude, calling her protector and friend. When the end finally came, she held his hand as he smiled at her one last time. He told her she had saved more than lives, she had saved hope. After his passing, she mourned deeply but did not return to hiding. She built a place near the old bridge where they first met. Travelers stopped to rest and hear her story told in many voices. Some still whispered monster, but more said guardian. She watched generations grow, knowing fear would never vanish completely. But neither would the memory of one human who chose compassion. And whenever doubt crept in, she repeated the words that changed everything. She is worth saving. So are you.